Welcome back to Larissa's channel. You might be curious about who Larissa really is. Well, she's not your average vampire. She's a powerful, ancient one of the very first. Picture this. She's the matriarch of a bloodline that stretches across the Americas and beyond. Born in the early 1500s in New Orleans, a French colony thriving on sugarcane, her human life was short, but packed with deep struggles and quiet defiance. This set the stage for the incredible power and vengeance she'd unleash for centuries. Isn't that just mind-blowing? As a young woman, she was enslaved on a vast sugar plantation, her days filled with grueling labor under a merciless sun and her nights offering little respite from the pervasive climate of fear and violence. It was in this crucible of despair that her transformation began, not through the bite of another vampire, but through a confluence of ancient ritual and a desperate will to survive and dominate the very forces that sought to crush her. The exact nature of her genesis into a vampire is shrouded in conflicting legends, with some tales suggesting she made a pact with a powerful, shadowy entity, while others whisper that she discovered and consumed a rare, blood-altering plant in a desperate act of rebellion. Whatever the truth, Larissa became Queen of America, and from her place, Larissa emerged, reborn with an unquenchable thirst for blood and an equally potent thirst for justice. On her own terms, her first act as an immortal being was a harbinger of the bloody reign to come. She methodically, silently, and brutally turned the plantation owner and his entire family, leaving their sprawling mansion a silent, blood feast by sunrise. This initial act of vengeance, however, did not sate her burgeoning rage. It only ignited it, setting her on a path to dismantle the oppressive systems she had once been a victim of, using the very darkness that had remade her as a weapon. After turning her own plantation into a necropolis ruled by her singular, terrible will, Larissa did not flee into the shadows as a solitary predator. Instead, she began a deliberate and strategic campaign of expansion, viewing her newfound vampiric nature not as a curse, but as a tool for liberation and empowerment. Her first converts were chosen with meticulous care from among those she had known in her mortal life, the fellow enslaved people who had shared her suffering. She moved through the slave quarters of her former prison, no longer a fellow victim, but a dark messiah offering an eternal and powerful alternative to a life of bondage. To those who had shown kindness, resilience, and a spark of rebellion, she offered the dark gift. She would approach them in the dead of night, her presence a chilling yet magnetic aura, and explain the choice before them: to remain mortal and subject to the whip and the chain, or to join her in an eternal night, possessing the strength to shatter their shackles and inflict their own justice upon their oppressors. Many accepted, drawn to her promises of power and vengeance. She turned the strongest field hands, the most defiant house servants, and the wisest elders, transforming the plantation from a symbol of her subjugation into the seat of her new vampiric dynasty. This burgeoning coven became her family and her army, a legion of the night bound to her by blood and a shared history of suffering. They learned to hunt under her tutelage, not as mindless beasts, but as disciplined soldiers, their targets always being the slave traders, the cruel overseers, and the wealthy landowners who profited from human misery. The plantation, once a place of death and despair, was reborn as a fortress of the undead, its sugarcane fields now concealing not the toil of the living, but the resting places of the dead who walked the night. With her home base secured and her first generation of fledglings loyal to her cause, Larissa's ambitions grew far beyond the confines of a single island. She then started to turn most slaves she encountered during her travels across the Caribbean and into the American colonies. Her methods became more systematic as she honed her ability to sense despair and rebellion in the hearts of mortals. She became a legend, a whispered rumor among the enslaved populations, a dark angel who offered a bloody freedom. Larissa and her progeny would infiltrate slave ships docked in bustling ports, moving like specters through the holds to offer the dark gift to those chained within. They would sweep through the slave markets of Charleston and New Orleans, identifying individuals whose spirits refused to be broken and spiriting them away into the night. For Larissa, this was not an act of indiscriminate creation. It was a calculated crusade. She saw in the institution of slavery a vast, untapped well of righteous fury, a potential army that, once transformed, could wage a secret war against the world of the living that had built its foundations on their backs. Each new vampire she created was another soldier in her eternal war, another soul saved from a mortal hell and repurposed for her grand design. She taught her children to be discreet, to hunt their former masters and their allies, and to use their newfound immortality to undermine the economic and social structures of the slave trade from within the shadows. This rising network of vampires, lurking around plantations and busy port cities, turned into a secret force of revenge. They were behind a bunch of strange deaths, financial messes, and mysterious disappearances that haunted those who built the slave economy for years. The mortal world saw only accidents, plagues, and ill fortune. They remained blissfully unaware of the silent, blood-drinking revolution fomenting in the darkness, all orchestrated by the will of their dark queen, Larissa. As the progenitor of this rapidly expanding and ideologically driven bloodline, Larissa is a super STEM powerhouse, always making cool stuff and breaking boundaries. Larissa is a super STEM powerful vampire, and she has this wild ability to turn any human into a vampire. How crazy is that? Just picture this. With just one little bite, she can turn someone into a creature of the night. How wild is that? It's totally mind-blowing, right? Imagine the adventures that could unfold. Her blood wasn't just any old vampire blood. It was pure and packed with raw power. This made her way stronger, faster, and way more psychically gifted than anyone else in her family. Talk about being one of a kind, right? Her will was law, and her blood bond with her progeny was absolute. Larissa is a super powerful vampire, and she is this wild ability to turn any human into a vampire. How crazy is that? Seriously, it was almost like she has this magical vibe that pulled everyone in. You know how family ties can be. Well, for these vampires, it was a bond that transcended time. They'd gather in secret, sharing tales of her legendary exploits, and you could just feel the admiration in the air. Imagine the way she navigated the dark underworld, building alliances and crushing rivalries with a flick of her wrist. It was no wonder they were all a bit jealous. Her charisma and wisdom made her the ultimate queen of the night. And those who tried to challenge her quickly learned that they were out of their league. It's like they were playing checkers while she was playing chess. From her hidden sanctuaries, she could sense the emotional state of her descendants, share visions, and issue silent commands across continents. Her authority was not merely a matter of respect or fear. It was a biological imperative woven into the very essence of the blood she had gifted them. Over the centuries, her line became known as the Children of the Vengeful Night, or, more simply, the Larissan Coven. They were distinct from other vampiric clans, not just in their origins, but in their collective purpose. While other vampires might pursue personal power, hedonism, or arcane knowledge, Larissa's children remained, at their core, instruments of her long and patient war against injustice. She was their queen, their creator, and their living god, the eternal source from which all their dark power flowed. Her legacy isn't found in dusty old books or grand monuments. It's written in the blood of the countless vampires she created. It's all about the hidden history of a fierce war fought in the shadows, ignited by one brave, enslaved woman. She refused to be a victim and instead transformed into a powerful, immortal force of nature. Can you imagine that? It's such a compelling story. If you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing tales like this.